Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see so many of you have joined our group. And welcome to this National Graduate Week, a career map event with the BBC. If my friends would like to join me, we have Val, who's a the software engineering team. We've got Nicola, who is a resourcing partner, Sophie, who is a principal software engineer, and Hazel, who is a new careers trainee. So we've got a spectrum for you here to tell you about all the exciting opportunities. Before we begin, I would just like to remind you that these events are live, but it is being recorded. So if you want to watch it again or you want to share it, the recording will be available on www.nationalgraduate.co.uk, and I will pop that into the chat. Speaking on the chat, it's on the right of your screen there. Please drop any questions that you have during the presentation. I will be gathering a lot of these up to be discussing at the Q&A later, and I'm sure some of our friends here might pop in as well. So don't be shy, and we'll have a bit of a thorough going through and see if we can answer all your questions. So for now, I'm going to pop off, leave you in their capable hands, and I will see you later on for the Q&A. Speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us. I'm not going to lie, as the numbers have been creeping up here, it's got scarier and scarier, the idea of chatting to you all. So I do really appreciate you joining us today. So as mentioned, we are all part of the BBC from different areas. I will go through introductions, but first of all, I'm just going to let you see the agenda of what we're hoping to cover with you today. So basically, we're hoping that at the end of this presentation, at the end of our chat, you'll have a better idea of maybe the roles and opportunities that are available to you in the BBC should you choose to come to us as a future employer. I hope that you will specifically have a good idea around our schemes and assessment, and in particular, again, our technology, design and engineering area where we have the fantastic specialists from that are joining me today. I'm pointing that way. They could be that way. I'm not sure. On my screen they are. So yes, on that note, I'll start off with our introductions. So I am Nicola McConville. I am a senior resource and advisor. I have been with the BBC now for 7 years. I have worked a couple of years in BBC Northern Ireland specifically across various roles in technology and sport in loads of different areas. And the last 5 years I have been working in resourcing. I have, again, because we have so many different roles, been recruiting from the likes of production to technology. So it's just such a vast area. And since June, I made the move over to the schemes team. So I have had the pleasure of recruiting and running all the fantastic assessment days and that you would be part of if you have went through any of those. So yes, I'm so nervous. As you can see from that picture, that was before I had my son, so I was getting plenty of sleep, so I don't look like that anymore. So on that, I will hand over to the lovely Val to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Val Kelly. I'm a software engineering team lead and I manage the BBC Software Engineering Graduate Scheme, and I'm going to talk to you about that shortly after Nicola's done her presentation. We're going to go in deep about the scheme, what you need to know and what you think you know, but there's a lot more to it actually.
Fab. And then Sophie, would you like to go next and introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi everyone, lovely to see so many people here today. Sophie Bowman, I'm a principal software engineer and accessibility lead. I'm currently working in the team that codes and maintains the BBC's new web platform. We have a design system and a framework that sits kind of all together in one big old repo that lots and lots of people contribute to across the whole BBC. So that's the team that I'm in. I take that specialism in accessibility and I work with lots of disciplines all over the BBC, many products, many teams, and it's super, super fun. And I'll hand over to Hazel.
Hi, I'm Hazel. I'm currently a graduate on the software engineering scheme. I've been here for 11 months now. which doesn't feel like that long time, but it's absolutely flown by. It's been great. And I'm going to give you a bit about my experience on the scheme so far, and some of the teams that I've been in and how that's all been going. And I'll pass you back to Nicola.
Thank you very much, ladies. So we will start off, like I said, looking at the roles that we have in the BBC. As I did mention, there are a huge variety of jobs. We have actually 940 job titles across the full business, and that, believe it or not, was actually brought down a couple of years ago to make it more streamlined. So there's just a huge amount of opportunity. I can't explain it enough. We do go from the likes of our more traditional roles. So we have the likes of our own legal, HR departments where I sit. We have our business support, marketing, all of those kind of areas. Then we also have the likes of our more traditional media roles that we're probably known as being a recruiter for. So if you think of the BBC, you'd probably think of journalism or content creation. But we are here today to chat to you to mainly let you know that we are a huge employer in the area of technology, design and engineering as well. We have all roles running from the likes of our fantastic software engineering team. The guys are here with us today. UX designers, testers, operations engineers. It's just a huge part of the operation. So we are trying to, like I said, let people know that we do recruit in that area as well, and how fantastic our teams are, and how much they are developing and changing the world of technology in broadcasting and media. So there really is something for everybody. Now, at the end of this, I'll share my LinkedIn page. I'm constantly sharing opportunities, whether it be jobs or our schemes and assessments. So if you do want to follow, maybe technology isn't completely your thing, but you're still very interested in opportunities with us, or vice versa. If you hear about stuff today you'd be interested in, please do link up with me, or have a look at our social media pages, and we can answer any questions at all you have on that. So off the back of me chatting about the amount of roles we have, I'm going to show you a couple of minute long clip. It focuses specifically on our Salford base, which was opened just over 10 years ago, I think now. Maybe we're over it. Maybe this is slightly out of date. Apologies. But the reason why I'm showing you it today is to give you an idea of what we have achieved in the last 10 years from just that one base. Now, again, this doesn't include all of the areas across the BBC. This is just what amazing things have happened in the last 10 years from this area. So excuse me if I mess something up technology-wise here. I'm just going to stop the slide and jump to the video. So keep in mind the amount of people involved in the creation and development of all of these projects, and the huge amount of roles that there would have been.
It's full of people who are really imaginative and really creative. And I think the merge of ideas that you've got here is really exciting.
We launched the 4th version of the BBC homepage within a few months of arriving at Media City, and we launched a 5th version about 5 years later.
More of us are choosing when and how to watch favourite TV shows using on-demand services like the BBC iPlayer. Now the corporation has launched a new version of the service, which will include comedy and drama made for online viewing.
Being the first software engineering apprentices at the BBC was a mix between nervousness and excitement, but being able to start my career surrounded by talented and supportive people allowed me to grow quicker than I ever could have imagined.
working on site in Westminster, a new broadcasting house, to get the encoders and feeds set up. Once these were in place, news editorial colleagues who were working from home could use Silver to manage the Westminster feeds and send the streams live each day.
Thank you. I'll just jump back to our presentation again. Apologies. Sorry, Val, I jumped onto your scene there. Yeah, so like I said, the reason why I was showing you that video is because that's just a small part of the BBC. So just imagine kind of the amount, like just the mountains of people, of talent and of different roles that were involved across all of those projects. It's so collaborative as an organisation. And like you've seen with the mention of Silver, most of our systems, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I would say it's around 99%. It's a huge amount of all of the systems we use to get all of our media onto your TV, onto iPlayer, and onto various different platforms in which you watch it. We have created ourselves, well, not me, obviously, but our fantastic teams have created themselves in-house. So it's, especially that technology side, there's just so much opportunity for development and growth. So on that note, like I mentioned, we're going to focus today on the likes of our apprenticeships and our schemes. And specifically, because I have the fantastic ladies with me today, we are going to focus on our software engineering graduate scheme. Now, a lot of our technology schemes will follow the same, Val, correct me if I'm wrong, but the same kind of process in terms of rotations and that. So it will give you a good idea of how other schemes will look across the BBC. And then once we have chatted about that, we will take a look at the other apprenticeships and schemes that we do provide and give you an idea about those too. So I will hand over to Val to chat around the software engineering graduate scheme now. Thanks.
Okay, well, as I mentioned before, I'm Val Kelly. I'm the software engineering team lead, and I've been the manager of this graduate scheme for the past 8 years now. And I have to say, it's the best. It's my most favourite job that I've ever had. I get so much pleasure out of managing this scheme. I can't tell you. I have no plans to go anywhere else. So how does this scheme work? I want to touch about how it works, but also why it's different from other software engineering schemes that you might have already had a look at. So it's quite standard in this regard. It's 24 months. It's 4 rotations of 6 months. So I will choose your first rotation based on the experience that you put down on your CV and your application. Why do I do that? Because I want you to feel as comfortable as possible starting a rotation, and I want you to feel like you can at least make some sort of contribution when you first start, because I think it's quite hard to join a big organisation like the BBC. We've been joining remotely recently. Hopefully that's going to change by September 2022 as well. So that made it a bit of an extra challenge. But rotations 2, 3 and 4 are your choice. Okay, so that means you select from, we've got a really huge variety of rotations, and it's up to you what you do next. So you might have started doing a purely back end or front end rotation, and you might want to see what Android is like, or just try something that you've never previously thought about. It really is up to you. And I think that's what makes this scheme different. You're in control, you have that choice. So you choose your next rotation. With each team that you're in, you're part of that team. So you're not the, grad in the corner with a huge pile of reading matter, just reading through that on your own with your back to everyone and making everyone cups of tea. It's absolutely not like that. And Hazel, who's on the scheme at the moment, and Sophie, who's been through it, will talk to you about that in a bit more detail shortly, but certainly not the case. Once you've got set up in that team that, you know, usually takes a few days, you are then pairing with others in the team, you're working on tickets and you're pushing things through to live, sometimes within a matter of days and weeks. You're involved in every aspect of the team. So that's all of the meetings, any group training, all of it, you are part of that team. And it's really important to sort of specify that you're definitely not, you know, sat on your own, sat in the corner. You are encouraged to do as much relevant training as you like. There's no limit to the training you can do. We've got the BBC Academy, which is huge, sort of world-class training provider. We've got lots of online resources as well. So anything that's going to help you in that rotation, I will never say no to that. I'm always happy to authorise your training. And you're not just learning from training courses, as I say, you're pairing with your colleagues all of the time. And that is such a great way to learn as well. You will have 10% time. Most of the teams do this, and that is just your time to work on your own projects. Lots of really great things that are implemented into our various products and services have come out of people creating them in their own time. Some people use 10% time to do other training courses. It's up to you, really. While you're on the scheme, you've got a mentor. You can have a mentor in the BBC for as long as you want. Actually, you have a dedicated mentor for 2 years, and then if that mentor-mentee relationship is working, you can carry on with that for as long as you like. That mentor is there to just give you a helping hand based on their experience. So your mentor is someone who's, you know, a few years ahead of you, has worked in the BBC for a while, and can just help you. It's a good idea to talk to them, especially when you're choosing your rotations. They can give you a hand, help you with working out what you want to do next. Your progress is always being reviewed. You've got regular catch-ups with me as a scheme manager and with your team manager. You've got a buddy in the team who is there so you've just got somebody to turn to and ask for a bit of help or ask for clarity. But I have to say, on the scheme and throughout the BBC, there are no stupid questions. So if you're not sure of anything, you just ask, and people are always happy to help. All of the teams are always happy to have grads. Grads are actually very highly in demand, and they understand that you are on a training scheme and you're there to learn, and they want to share their knowledge with you. Yeah, so your progress is regularly reviewed with me, with the team manager, and you will do a self-assessment at the end of every rotation as well, so you can see how well you've progressed, and that will help you to decide on your next rotation as well. Rotations vary so much across all of our products and services. I mean, literally there are too many to list, and as I say, that is completely your choice. Hazel and Sophie, have I missed any valuable information? Great.
I think you covered everything there, Val.
Well, I mean, I can sit here and talk to you about how great this scheme is all day, but I'm going to hand you over now to Hazel, who is on the scheme at the moment, and will just basically talk to you about her experience. Hazel, it's all yours.
Sorry to jump in very quickly, but just whilst you're going over your slide there, Steve Johnson has asked in the chat what type of projects you got to work on as well as a grad. So once you're going through it, you can maybe enlighten him.
Cool, yeah, I think I'll go through some of that anyway with my two current teams that I've been on, so hopefully that should answer your question. So yeah, hi, I'm Hazel. I've been on the grad scheme for 11 months, and the first question that I'm going to answer hopefully is, what can you actually do on the scheme? And the answer really is just about anything. Like, when you think of the BBC in general from an outside perspective, you think of all its kind of like core services, so like iPlayer, sounds, web, children's sport, but you don't actually tend to think of how many sub-teams those kind of services provide. And when you actually are looking at joining in rotations, you then realise how much choice you actually have to choose from. And the grad scheme really kind of encompasses that and lets you pick and choose from those who are looking for graduates to join them. So the main thing to take out the grad scheme in general is its flexibility for being able to choose the rotations you want to be on. If you really like front end work or really like back end work or full stack, then there's always teams that can kind of provide that training for you. So you can kind of tailor the scheme to how you want it to behave. For me, it was a case of like, I left uni with a computer science degree and I just really liked to code, but I didn't really know what kind of content I wanted to then provide. So the scheme lets me kind of like pick and choose rotations that I can then kind of discover what I think would fit me. So my first rotation was a front end rotation, which the scheme chose for me based on what kind of experience I had before. And then my second rotation that I'm now currently on, I then chose to be different from my first one so that I got experience of both sides of that kind of web behaviour. So that's a bit on why I chose to be in the scheme. It was just a case of like I was just uncertain of what I wanted to be in my career, which is completely fine, but the scheme is really there to kind of help you find your niche, really. I'll tell you a bit about my experience on topics. I was on the homepage team doing some front end work for web. I kind of really got stuck in with some of their new statistics model behaviour. I helped them implement that, which was really interesting. Not something that I thought I was really that interested in until I got kind of like stuck in with it. And I helped them provide that for their new pages. They were adding articles onto their Premier League pages, which are currently now live and released. And our stats let us see if people were actually engaging with those posts that we had put on there. So that project was really kind of like a deep dive into seeing if some of the products we were putting out there were actually feasible and users were actually enjoying and finding good. So that's a bit about my front end experience. I'm now on a second team in RMS, which is Radio and Music Services and Sounds. They do a lot of back end work with APIs. Also not something I thought I'd be that interested in, but it's actually been like a really beneficial experience. I'm also doing a testing rotation with them, which I didn't know was available to me either. And testing, seeing from that kind of perspective on their side is really good, because I think as a developer you tend to just think, right, I'm writing code and then somebody else is looking at it to see if it's going to break or if it's going to work or not. So it's really good to know the kind of methods they go through if you're wanting to be a front-end developer anyway, just to have that experience to see what they test. So that's a bit about my projects that I've been on. What are the teams actually like? Currently, we kind of have some kind of like a board system we go through. So you kind of pick up little tickets of work. The kind of like business analysts and product owners will kind of piece together some of the projects that are coming through, and they'll try to like break them down into little pieces that you can kind of pick up and work on. So you'll usually work off of like a sprint board, all mainly agile. Pick up tickets, work on those. They'll go through from like in progress, and people will review them. They'll get tested, and then those will get eventually released to live. The teams usually have some sort of like regular meetings. We have usually like a daily stand-up every day. We have like retrospective sessions during the week, so you get to give your teams feedback on what you think is working. So even as a graduate start, and you really get to give the teams your feedback on how they work and how they can, better their working together or pieces that they're working on, to see if you can actually like give them ideas that they'll take on in the future, even if you're in a different rotation afterwards. And the teams tend to do a lot of social things too. We have like some quiz nights, or your Friday you'll have like a session just to get to know members of the team, and that can really be beneficial for team team dynamics and just getting on well with people. And there's never a person in a team that you come across that is not there to answer any of the questions you have or help you on anything you're working on. Because you do find yourself, like as a grad, you think you should be there and up to speed with everybody straight away, and that's just not the case, because they've been there for years. You know, they're working on those projects, and you shouldn't expect yourself to be at that level straight away. So they're always there to answer your questions and pair with you on tickets to work with, so you're never really left on your own, and it is just really like a learning experience from the get-go. My other pieces I think Val tends to have covered already, which is just there's so much training options as well. So what is actually available to you on the scheme, you can have like academy sessions with training courses online, Plural site, you have O'Reilly, you have your mentors that are looking after you as well. So the main thing is when you're on the scheme, just to make use of everything that you have available to you. Absolutely just make the most of what you have there, because after you've done your scheme stuff, you can kind of like go on to as many training courses as you want with the scheme, as long as they're viable to what you're working on. But you don't tend to get that much training when you're off the scheme. You can still apply for courses, but maybe just not as much for the training wise. So just absolutely make the most of what you have available to you there. And my last thing that I have to say is just when you're on the scheme, you have these objectives that you write as you're going through, and these I think have been the most beneficial thing to me, is just keeping track of your progress whilst you're on it. Is you set these things almost every 6 months to kind of challenge yourself, and sometimes you think, well, so much has been going on, how do I actually keep track of everything I've been doing, or see how you're getting on? And I think that's a really good kind of like pace to say, have things been too difficult? Am I actually like finding what I'm learning good? And you feed these back to Val and kind of like monthly meetings, and you get to like rejig some of the things you're working on. So if you're really interested in certain areas of the team that you're in, once you actually experience it, you can set these as objectives that you want to kind of work on, and then your team will kind of find ways to be able to get you onto certain tickets that provide you with answers to those, or the training for those, which is really good. And I've found that the most beneficial thing really is just setting yourself goals from the start, and it's really nice to see yourself work through those. So yeah, that's all about me for the scheme. I hope that's answered any questions some people have had, and I'll pass. I think Sophie's after me now.
Okie dokie. There we go. And the videos are kind of covering our lovely face up, but Dolly Barton is here to help, and she'll be referenced in just a moment. But yeah, hi everyone. So Sophie again. So I'm going to go through with you today a bit of a day in the life of a principal software engineer in broadcasting. So I am a principal software engineer with a specialism in accessibility, which has been nurtured by the business. I've been allowed to take that as my kind of passion and move into that kind of like accessibility lead role as something additional to my kind of day-to-day role, which has been amazing. As I said before, I work on the BBC's digital platform. We call it WebCore. Lots and lots of teams working on that now. I joined when it was maybe 1 or 2 teams on the platform, and it's grown so much since then, and it's amazing. It's very, very cool to work on. So I thought I'd give everyone a little bit of context first of all as to what is a principal software engineer, because there's lots of titles, job titles floating around. So I was on the graduate scheme 2015 to 2017, and then I came off the grad scheme as a junior software engineer. And then became a midweight is kind of the way that people usually refer to it, as a software engineer. Then I became senior not too long after that. And very, very recently I've become principal. So it's a few layers up where I am now. And someone earlier in the chat asked about career progression. So after I came off the scheme, it took me 4 years. So pretty much every sort of 7-8 months or so, if you average it all out, I've had a promotion, and that has been down to the wonderful people that I work with, and all of the learning opportunities and things that I've worked on. It's been amazing. Cool. So now you've got that little bit of context. Here's where Dolly comes in. So I don't actually work 9 to 5, unfortunately, so it's not exactly the same as the song, but I do work from 10 till 6. It's pretty flexible in terms of kind of working hours, so especially since we've also been working from home over the pandemic. I am actually now a permanent home worker, so that's some flexibility that has been afforded to me by the BBC, which is awesome. I do have a chronic illness and a disability myself. So again, there were some questions earlier about kind of like culture and stuff like that. I'm very well supported in that, in having a disability, and my kind of working pattern works for me, which is awesome. So what I thought I would do is run everyone through a typical kind of day as a principal engineer in the presentation layer team in WebCore. So don't worry too much if you can't see. I love that the eyes emoji is kind of like pretty much the only one that stayed vaguely similar as the presentations happen. But don't worry too much if you can't read it. I will read them out for you if people's faces are over things. So I start at 10, and around 10 o'clock we meet up in the morning for a ritual that we call a stand-up. So if you've heard of agile methodologies, teams around the BBC will pick bits of agile methodologies that work for them. One of the things that we do is that's stand-up. The reason it's called that is because it's supposed to be a really quick meeting where everyone's kind of stood around in a morning, and everyone kind of makes sure that there's nothing blocking us. There's, you know, that we're all good to continue the work that we're working on for that day. Give any updates. It is sat down stand up, since most people are working from home at the moment, which is quite fun. So after that, we've got something that we call TAG, which is kind of a department level technical advisory meeting. So this is where technical leaders, usually senior and up, come to the meeting from lots of departments and products, and we come together and we chat about upcoming technical challenges, and we collaborate around kind of organizing how we're going to solve particular problems. And we might say, oh, actually, can that person from that team come over, and we'll form a sort of temporary team, and we'll get together and kind of like problem solve together on that. So that's really good. Then we've got 11:30ish, might have a one-to-one mentoring catch-up. So one of the big things in the BBC when you are more senior, so if you're more senior in your role, is that you should be mentoring your less experienced colleagues. But that's not to say that you don't learn something from them as well. Absolutely, mentoring is an excellent way for you to learn how to impart knowledge to other people in ways that works for them. It's very, very open, and like it's a great way for you to make contact with other people in the business, because it is absolutely massive. So it's a good idea to get to know a few people outside of your own team and stuff like that. So I do have a mentee on the grad scheme, as I was a grad myself a few years ago now. Gosh, it feels like it's been forever. Okay, cool. So then I might go have my lunch. So if I was in the office, we might go for a little walk around the quays in Salford. Might have a cheeky Nando's if we feel like it. If I'm at home, it's more than likely going to be a sandwich. So yeah, we'll have a lunch, and that's an hour, so we get a full hour for that. And you can kind of take it wherever works for you. 1 o'clock might have a consultation with our user experience designers to create an accessible component. So in our design system, we have lots and lots of products kind of contributing components and pieces of work for their roadmaps to that one central design system. And we try to make sure that accessibility is one of the big things that we focus on when we're creating those online experiences, so that our full audience, our diverse, wonderful audience, can all access the content that we produce on the web. So I might have a chat with someone in UX about, you know, how do we make this button particularly accessible? How do we make sure that everyone can read the stuff that we're putting on the web pages, which is awesome. 2 o'clock, mob time. So now that's not the pitchfork kind. I know it is quite close to Halloween, but it's not, no one's got any pitchforks when we do mobs. So in the context of software engineering, mobbing is where you get lots of people together, usually mostly engineers, but you can have folks from test, and we might have like our team lead join in every now and again as well, where we all get together in a very safe environment of learning and knowledge sharing, and we've solved problems together as a team. So usually in that kind of context, we'll have someone who's maybe less experienced driving, so they'll be typing and actually typing the code, or we might do it the other way around, where someone who's more experienced is just typing, and then the less experienced folks get to figure out the problem with the rest of the team and come up with some solutions for that. And that's really, really cool. So it's some nice focus time in the afternoon there to do our feature work. And then you can see here we've got at 4 o'clock, just a casual chat to Google. I mean, why not? Yeah. So one of the awesome things about working in the BBC, because it is a huge business and very well known, is that we also get to chat to other very well known big organizations who are very strong in the web space. So we have these catch-ups with the Google Chrome developers who help us to make sure that features we're using on our website are kind of like meeting the latest web standards, and any new kind of tools or things we can use that they've introduced, that we know what's going on there, and we're kind of aligning with what good looks like for the web at the moment, which is really, really cool. And yeah, the first time I joined that meeting, I was like, oh my goodness, it's Google. And they were going, oh my goodness, it's the BBC. And you don't really feel like, that important when you're in there, but everyone sees you that way, which is really, really awesome. And then we come to sort of near the end of the day, so around 5 o'clock. Again, coming back to that culture question from earlier, we do spend time, just especially in the current kind of like Zoom ecosystem, we spend some time just chatting to each other and finding out, what we've been working on, what our days have been like, if our pets have been interrupting our meetings, in our water cooler channel on Zoom, which is really, really nice. And I might also kind of do a little bit of wrapping up towards the end of the day, some emails, a little bit of admin, maybe write some notes, some documentation, something like that. So that's kind of like an overview of a kind of a typical day for me. And then I'm just going to move on now to the next slide, which is a little bit about having a growth mindset. So one of the big things about working at the BBC is that it's not just the day-to-day stuff. You also get to do all this awesome stuff outside of your kind of like normal, typical day-to-day job. So that image that we've got there is a boat race that happened between ITV and BBC for a charity event, I believe, a few years ago now. The BBC won, obviously, but and that was a picture I took out of the window in the office. So stuff like this just kind of happens around Salford, around Media City, which is really fun to watch. It's kind of cool. It feels like you kind of like got the best viewpoint of all these awesome events that happen. Some of the other things that we do are things like away days. So we might go into Manchester city centre, into like a hotel or something, and have a day where the whole department gets together and shares ideas, and we all kind of network and connect with each other a little bit. Because like I said earlier, even a department is huge in this organisation. So it's really important to make sure that you're kind of chatting to all the people and getting to know folks, so that when you come to work with them later on, it's even easier. So attending and speaking at conferences. So I actually did a talk at the BBC's Develop conference this year, and I've attended a conference literally last week around accessibility. So lots of opportunities to get involved in things like conferences. We do actually send people to places like Amsterdam pre-pandemic, and hopefully we'll be doing that kind of thing again, to things like the React conferences. And also for accessibility specifically, people have been to California to CSUN, which is an accessibility conference that happens over in America, which is really, really cool. And there's some really great opportunities there. Workshops, so you can go to another team and they might be running a workshop on a piece of technology, so you can just either join their Zoom call or pop across the piazza to join one of their workshops and learn something from a team that's not your own. Collaboration with the big names, like I mentioned earlier, lots of mentoring, and lots of outreach events as well. So I've been to lots of grad fairs and stuff like that, and I've also worked with in the last couple of years a school nearby where I live, actually, to help guide the future women in tech. So the kind of 11 to 13-year-old girls who are at the school there, and we ran a design sprint and a little bit of a coding session with them, and it was really, really cool. So lots of opportunities to kind of grow yourself as a person as well as an engineer, and I definitely say take advantage of that. If someone says, hey, can we have some volunteers to join this thing? Stick your hand up, go for it. It's really, really good. And you meet lots of people, and you'd be surprised how small this industry feels sometimes. So, you know, 3 or 4 years down the line, someone on LinkedIn will be like, oh, hey, I remember you from that presentation that you did at that conference, or something to that effect. And suddenly a door has opened that you didn't know you'd even set the stage for earlier. So it's really, really cool. Awesome. So that's kind of like pretty much everything I'm going to talk about. So I will pass back over. I think it's to Nicola. Is that correct?
Yes, back to me. Thank you so much for that, guys. And so, like, definitely hearing from Hazel and Val and her and Sophie's experience on the scheme, it'll give you a good idea of not just that particular scheme, but kind of the setup of our technology schemes in general. And then obviously from Sophie hearing about what that particular job looks like in broadcasting, because I'm sure obviously it's out across many other industries. So just what it would look like from us, and with the fantastic Dolly helping her out. That was great. So I'm going to jump back to some of the practicalities now. And just give you an idea about ways into the BBC. And like I said, I'll do a quick overview of the schemes and assessments that we offer. So if you were looking for an opportunity with ourselves in terms of recruitment, if you weren't looking schemes and apprenticeships, you were looking for an actual going straight into a role, we advertise everything on our BBC Careers Hub. Other websites such as Indeed and that do pick them up, but the best place to go is the BBC Careers Hub. But like I said, everything's there. And it's usually the generic application process of having a CV and application. Sometimes then you might have a video application in that, but that tends to be for more entry-level roles at the moment. Then we have the likes of our interviews and technical assessments. Again, everything's virtual at the moment, so your interviews might look like a Zoom call with a couple of panel members, and technical assessments then again will be the same, but you'll be expected to kind of be able to go on and mock up what it is that the technical assessors need, or depending on the assessment itself. The schemes and apprenticeships route in is slightly different. Again, we advertise everything on a careers hub. There are also social media sites specifically dedicated to these, which I'll share at the end. Again, you'll do your CV and application. Now, the application process of these are a bit longer. The reason why is because we get so many applicants for our schemes that we do have to dwindle it down a bit. So we would usually bring in the likes of second stage applications and that. So don't be surprised if you are asked to fill out another application. It's just to help us follow up and get who the right person is for the role. And then most of the time, instead of an interview or technical assessment, you might be invited to an assessment day. And that's usually basically when we're doing it all within the one day. So for the likes of the software engineering graduate scheme that we done, Val, not that long ago, we had the day full of interviews and again, technical assessments. If you were doing the likes of production, you might have interviews and competency based and very other different ones. So it looks slightly different across the business, but in general, we will just have 1 or a week of assessment days, depending on how big the schemes are. Like mentioned, I'll give you a very quick overview of the type of schemes that we have. So again, this is to give you an idea of the variation of roles and how our tech schemes reach into these two. So although we have production there, you have your production apprenticeship and trainee scheme, we also do have our technical operator roles. Then we have the business ones on the other side of the page. So they would focus around business management, HR, and our legal departments. Data analytics are in there as well. And they go right up. All of our schemes, and apprenticeships, if you look, they'll go up to around level 7, which is postgraduate level. So there's so many variations that you can look for and apply for. I noticed someone in the chat had asked about journalism and presenting. There's always a couple of people in there that are interested in that, right? So we only have 2. The reason why there are only 2 is because they span the whole of the BBC. So although it looks like there's not as many opportunities, there are a huge amount of placements within those 2 schemes. So please still do have a look. And then along the other side, or all technology, design and engineering, including our fantastic software engineering graduate scheme that we were chatting about today. So again, it varies from the likes of UX to our technical operators, research and development, and the couple of postgrad ones there as well I was chatting to you about. So like I said, I will put up our social media links to the places where we share all of our rules. And it is worth adding, apologies Val if you did already say it and I have completely went over it, but our software engineering graduate scheme is currently live now for applications for September 2022. So if you have enjoyed what you've heard today and think it might be something you're interested in, please do go to our careers hub where the page is currently live and have a look. If you do have any questions about it, we'll put our contact details at the end so you can give us a shout, and I'm happy to help out with any of those queries that you have. So we thought it might be good just to end from us with a kind of top tips of how to apply. And I know someone again in the chat I've been keeping an eye has asked, how can you stand out? So the top things for me that I would say from all my years in resourcing now would be to set up your Careers Hub profile in advance. If you log onto our system, it's quite a lengthy process in that there's a lot of fields to fill in. People tend to go very detailed in that, and then you'll get to your application form and they think, well, I've put everything in my profile, so I don't need to add it into my application form. But the application form and your CV are the bits that we most likely look at in terms of your profile. We usually just get contact details from that. So set up your Careers Hub profile in advance so it's done, and when you come to your application, focus all of your kind of energy on that. The specifics for each role are in the job advert. This is applicable to our apprenticeships and schemes as well. The reason why is all of our jobs follow generic job descriptions. So for the likes of the software engineering graduate scheme, the job description will be the generic early careers trainee job description. So although it will give you an idea of things that you will be expected to do, the specifics for this scheme and the rules will be in the advert. So I highly recommend when you come to filling out your application form for any job or apprenticeship across the BBC, focus on the advert and what it's requesting from me. Especially there's a bit that is it used to be ideal candidate, but I think it's changed now to a different title, but it's one of the ones on down. Have a look. It basically describes the type of person that they're looking for, and that is where we usually hide our key criteria. So that is top secret to you near 800 people. That is definitely the place to look. Measure yourself against that, and if you meet that criteria, definitely note that in your application. That's very important. I realise I've said take your time and already touched on that Careers Hub. That's just let you know how important it is. Just take your time with it, read the questions. You never realise how many people just blast ahead with it. If you're ever unsure about anything in the application, or if you want to know just more about the job or the opportunity, if it's for you, don't hesitate to contact the recruiter for the position. You can do that by either finding out who it is. It'll either say on the advert, or you can just email. There's a generic email address for resourcing@bbc.co.uk, which you'll find on Google, and one of the guys from there will tell you who it is you're dealing with. Like I said, I'm going to pop my LinkedIn in at the end as well. So again, if there is one and you're not sure about it, drop me a message and I will get it, whoever it is you need to be in touch with, and you can have a chat with them to make sure it's the right opportunity for you. Big thing for us, and I don't know if Val wants to comment on it, is demonstrating your passion when it comes to applying. Yeah. Well, Val, do you want to touch on that in terms of the scheme itself?
Yeah. So what I I should say I look at every application that we get, and what I am looking for is somebody who has clearly taken the time to complete the application fully. So I will ask for a list of the languages that you already know and what level, but what I'm not looking for is the finished article. You don't have to be the best coder in the world. I just want to see your potential. I want to see that you've taken the time to answer the questions fully. You've really put your heart and soul into your application. You know, you can never spend too much time on an application, and if you just have to give up, you know, an evening or your weekend to fill in that application, then it is so worthwhile. I'll be able to tell what I won't bother even reading is somebody who's just answered each question with, you know, a couple of words, one line, thinking, well, it's obvious. You know, it's not obvious. Treat the application like the person who's reading it doesn't know anything. So you need to put down as much detail in that application as you can. It is so worthwhile spending that time on it. It really is.
Yeah, just off the back of what Val said there about letting us know everything, you might assume that we will say you have experience in a certain area, so you won't kind of go into that in detail in your application. And back to that, having trust in your ability. What you're doing, you might think as well, oh, we won't bother with what you wrote down because it might have been just a project you worked on here or there, or something you just picked up in uni or something like that. Having that trust in the ability that the skills you used would excel you in this scheme and that you could develop on is something that stands out to us as well. So please do let your passion just shine through in these applications. And Val's saying it's all about taking your time and letting that come through. And the last thing I would say as well, generically, not just in terms of the tech stuff, is research in the organization. We sound very self-important, but one of the things, again, it's coming from that passion. One of the things we love is when people come to us and they're able to talk about maybe projects they've seen we do that they really enjoyed, or programs even as well that they've watched. I was doing interviews recently for production ones, and part of it was having people pitch to us their ideas, and all the ideas that this person pitched to us were things we were already making. So it was pretty evident that that person maybe didn't research the organisation, maybe wasn't hugely passionate about working for the BBC. It was just an opportunity for them. So things like that really kind of stand out to you, especially when we are dealing with so many talented individuals and to find the best person for the opportunity. So yes, unless there's any other tips you guys would like to add that you've learned from your interviews or applications. No? Happy with that? Great. Okay, well, guys, that's us. If you want to add any questions in there, I know that the guys from Career Map are going to update them for us. Like I said, if you're interested in any of our schemes and apprenticeships, the BBC Get In accounts are on Twitter and Instagram. Then we have our general recruitment account on Twitter, and add us on BBC LinkedIn and sign up to that Careers Hub. You can also set up job alerts if you want things to come through to you in email. And in the chat, I will add the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn link, and also the link to the application form for the Software Engineering Graduate Scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We had quite a turnout today, and what a fantastic, thorough presentation. And I see that you followed the questions that came through, so most of them were all answered during the session, which is brilliant news. I would like to ask one last question before we finally wrap up, because it's one that we're always quite interested in, particularly when you have young women in engineering. And the question is this what, when you were at school, you thought you would end up doing? And what would you say to all those young women listeners out there who might think, ooh, engineering, that's not for me?
Great question, Hazel and Sophie. One for you, I think.
Yeah, I can answer this one, actually. I actually thought I was going to do art when I left uni. Like, I really wanted to go and do something like that instead. And then when I was at school, I really enjoyed, like, accounting and numbers and maths. So I kind of, like, put them both together really for computing. Like, you get a bit of like the creative side and you also get a bit of the maths and the sciencey side, which is really good. So that's kind of what pushed me towards it. I didn't really think I would be at the BBC. I always thought it was something that was just like so beyond me that I was just like, it's so important, it's so big, like it just doesn't seem like something that would suit me. But as soon as you're like in it, it just feels like such a homely place. Like everyone's just so nice, so lovely. And I think that really like comes across in all the products they produce as well. The bit about like women in STEM too, like there's actually a lot more women in the kind of design sector here in the BBC. I think most of our teams have quite a good diversity of people, and yeah, again, that's just really true to like the kind of products they provide. It has people who have experience from loads of different kind of areas of life, and that really helps make what they do good.
Sophie, what did you do at uni? Did you think you were going to go into engineering from that age, or did that come later?
So I did actually do web design and development at university, but up until college, I thought I was going to be a vet. And then it turned out I was really, really rubbish at biology. So that didn't turn out. But what I had realized when I got, my results is that I'd gotten a distinction in IT and an A in English. And I remembered, sitting when I was 11 years old making home pages in CSS and HTML just because I wanted my page to look cool on the website I was playing on at that point. It sort of kind of crept up on me a bit as a career, really. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm actually really excited about this. So I went and applied for that course at uni. Still wasn't sure at that point whether I wanted to be a designer or a software engineer. Definitely very creative, like Hazel mentioned. Once I got onto the grad scheme, I kind of fell in love with the problem solving and also the ability for me to take my passion as someone with a disability into accessibility as a specialism, which the business has helped me nurture that and kind of become a bit of a subject matter expert in that area, which has been amazing. But yeah, definitely didn't think I was going to be at the BBC. My goodness, I'm from a really small village in Barnsley originally, and I was just sort of like, the BBC want me? Are you serious? And it was, but it's been fantastic. It's definitely made my career working here. So yeah.
That's great. That's really what we like to hear. One of the things that has come across throughout our National Graduate Week with lots of young people that we spoke to is how many people have misconceptions about having known what they've sorted out for their life at a young age, and it's some sort of straight trajectory. And it's always really good to hear that, that it's okay and you're not wrapped in stone. And also, it's also really interesting to me because we deal with really young people, school leavers as well, who have that question, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But there's quite a lot of graduates we speak to as well who aren't sure what that is. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences. Thank you all for joining us very much. Thank you everybody who's logged in, and fantastic. So many of you stayed till the end as well, which is great news. If you've missed any part of this though, or you want to share it, don't worry. It's going to be available, as I said earlier, on www.nationalgraduateweek.co.uk. Some of the BBC team have also put in links in the chat. If you are interested in those, please make sure that you click on them now, because whilst it's being recorded, it'll probably be about a week before we get this up onto the site. But on that note, I would like to say thank you again for the BBC team, Val, Nicola, Sophie and Hazel. And it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from them.
Bye.
And have a great weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.